Stacy Osmond, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm really glad that you were able to take the time to do this because you and I have talked several times over the last 2 months about all the things that you're dealing with. So first of all, if you wanna start and just give a brief introduction of who you are and your background.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Stacy Osmond. Like you said, I'm an attorney over at DLA Piper. We're a large multi-international law firm. And I, in normal times, office out of our Chicago office. I have a broad practice that focuses on commercial real estate, includes all sorts of transactions, acquisitions, dispositions, leasing, financing, real estate investments, and joint ventures and development. My clients typically span across industry sectors and range from small startups to investment firms and international corporations.
Got it. Great. So I'll just get right to the questions because we only have that 10-minute span. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you is how are the people that are making the deals adjusting their strategies right now to deal with the environment and the limitations?
Sure. So I guess the biggest thing is flexibility. Flexibility and the types of deals they're considering, the asset classes, the structuring, the underwriting. In short, a lot of deals are looking different than what they would have looked like 9 months ago. And kind of as part of that, having a contingency plan to get the deal done. So, for example, I've been working on some portfolio refinancing and having backup properties in case something happens, like a closed recorder's office or appraisals or rent rolls not coming in where we would have thought they would have come in, pre-COVID, are ways to make sure a deal gets done and you can swap things in and out. And that's, a contingency plan is very helpful in that. Another item is just thinking about diligence and thinking of doing it differently and how can we do it virtually. So, it's crazy what people are doing now. They're looking at properties via drone and completely virtual inspections. And just that type of innovation is how people are getting their diligence and underwriting done.
Wow.
Yeah. One other thing I guess I would note is that we're not getting face-to-face contact like we used to. So it's really affecting how negotiations are happening. In a normal time, at the beginning of a deal, the parties would meet a bunch, they develop a relationship and have that relationship as the foundation to how the deal gets done. And then when we're working through diligence and legal issues, we rely on that relationship to kind of help push things through. That's harder to develop during this virtual time that we're in. So, I think the people that are getting the deals done are looking at that differently and developing those relationships and that trust to be able to push you through a deal in different ways than what they were doing before.
Got it. Okay. And then can you speak about speak to the state of the market as it relates to like trends that you're seeing besides for just the deals being closed virtually?
Yeah. So for the commercial real estate market, so just like to start with leasing, not seeing a ton of new leases for new space. I've been seeing extension amendments and lots of, not surprising, rent relief amendments. They're pretty common at this point.
What
For
does that look like, the rent relief amendments?
Yeah, so the deal to be struck really depends on the asset, the type of the landlord, the strength of the tenant, even like the individual property. A ton of other factors are at play. So they vary a lot, but I would say like the most common thing I've been seeing is a set number of months of rent deferral, and then that gets paid back over a set period of time. But I've been seeing other prongs of that deal, such as an extension of the term to match up with that deferral period, a changing of tenant rights, et cetera. So it's really an open book depending on, the specifics of that tenant. A landlord's often wanting to see the financials of the tenant to even evaluate if they should be giving the rent relief and what that rent relief looks like too. Related to that, the sublease market is getting very crowded, not surprising. Lots of space is going to sublease as companies are deciding they don't need as much space post-COVID.
I
So
think CBRE posted something. I've seen a couple different things come from CBRE where they talked about that, like this being the highest ever
yes.
in Chicago for subleases.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that'll have an interesting effect on the market as a whole. And so we'll see how that all plays out as we continue to move forward. I guess the other aspect to leases that people are talking about are lease terminations and workouts. So these are pretty challenging. There's a lot of players to get a lease termination and workout done. So beyond just the landlord and tenant, we have to, some landlords have investors that have to approve. They have lenders that have to approve. They may have co-tenancy provisions in their leases, which means that they have to keep a certain number of shops, for example, open in a project to not default on other leases. So there's a lot of factors in play that make it difficult sometimes to negotiate a lease workout and termination. But I will say that often when the landlords agree to those, they're wanting a termination fee, which could be significant.
Got it. Okay. And then do you have any tips on getting end of the year and Q4 deals closed this year, despite this COVID obstacles that we're facing right now?
Yeah, well, so Q4 deals, they're so often like a total scramble. I think I've been in so many deals that we're signing documents on December 31st. So I think the logistical challenges presented by COVID, I mean, that's going to make it challenging this year. So I think the biggest tip is give yourself more time and know that things are going to take a little longer than they may have taken previously. So pushing up to a very last day of the year is going to be a little more challenging. I mean, so think about this way, like just getting a document notarized is a total headache now. Like if you're not in the office, that means you got to go find a notary to witness your signature to sign it if you're going to close by the end of the year.
I didn't even think about that. How would you, I guess, how do notaries work in this climate?
So in some places you can do an electronic notary if it's allowed by the state and the laws are appropriate for that. There are traveling notaries that you can actually get them to come to your house and notarize. Otherwise, you have to go to the UPS or otherwise to get some other location. If you're not in the office, I mean, most companies will have notaries in their office, but if no one's in the office, and their assistant isn't there to notarize it, then it becomes just logistically challenging, which is an annoying thing to think about for a deal. You have so many other things to think about a deal, and then just these little logistical challenges are really annoying and frustrating. So I mean, related to that, the other items are like long lead time items are potentially taking longer. Like getting a entity qualified to do business in a state could take much longer than you would ever imagine now for it to get done. I had a deal that we waited weeks and weeks and weeks for a qualification in a state, and it almost messed up the deal because of how long it was taking. And it's just another logistical, what should just be a check the box is now just taking so much longer because of COVID. And I think like one other thing I would mention on getting Q4 deals done is a lot of things that were previously boilerplate or normal or typical are now taking new life in COVID. Like things we wouldn't have thought about before in a deal or would have been standard, we're now rethinking.
Like what?
A great example is just like the force majeure clause in all of our contracts are now one being scrutinized entirely if you signed the contract previously. But new contracts, we're all thinking about, well, what if everything shuts down again? How are we going to deal with that? So addressing that earlier in the process of a deal could save you a ton of headache and negotiating trouble later on.
Got it. Okay. I feel like there's so much on this topic that you can talk about. Unfortunately, we have like a minute left. So what I'll do though is obviously I'm going to tag you on this post on LinkedIn. So if anybody has questions and whatnot, they can reach out to you directly.
Yeah, perfect. Happy to help.
Cool. Well, I know you have a lot on your plate, and God knows what's going to happen next and what other new legislations that you're going to have to work through. But I appreciate your time a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Vinny. Happy to help.
Cool. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.